Okay, if you are like me, it can quickly feel like every week you read the headlines and there's a new scam out there that we're being warned about. It can be overwhelming and a little bit frightening, especially if you are trying to not only take care of yourself, but maybe your kids, maybe your parents who are getting older. So lucky for us, Nancy Cogar is back on the show. She, of course, is an elder law attorney here in town and very practical in her approach. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's always good to be here. And I thought this was important to bring up, not only because there's so many of them out there, but oftentimes the target is older adults. You know, and you match technology and older adults, and that can be a real challenge.
So, I mean, I will give you two examples. I won't name them by name, but I know two different people, friends of mine, whose parents or grandparents were the target of one of those, hey, your grandchild is in jail in Miami, you're going to need to, or I guess it was supposed to be the grandchild calling to say, help me out.
Well, unfortunately, these guys can mock voices, you know, computer voices. They can steal phone numbers, so you think they're calling from somewhere and they're not. They can really bully you into thinking that they're from the government or that you're, you know, out of time and you need to pay this immediately. It just is really frustrating. About $12.5 billion in money was stolen last year, and that's an increase, significant increase from the year before. So this stuff is really something all of us need to pay attention to.
You know, and as we're talking, I'm thinking about, I'm sure everybody watching still probably gets those texts on your phone about the tolls.
I get them too.
And boy, if you're not careful, you'll hit, and then they get sneaky. The last one will say like, this is your last chance. Yeah. And one wrong tap of the finger and you're stuck. So what do you do, Nancy, besides be on high alert?
Well, you know, I've thought about things that are as practical as having some kind of password with your family if somebody's calling. Or, you know, the most basic thing you can do is do not do business over the phone or your computer. If someone's telling you you owe some money, find out, call that person back, call the government back. They are not going to call you demanding that you make a payment. Not even the IRS does that. They do everything by written
mail.
Notice because that's the legal way of doing things.
Okay. Okay, so let's repeat that then.
Sure.
Somebody sends you a text and even an email maybe or a phone call, unless it comes through the mail. And if it's something that serious, it will probably come certified mail, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That you have to make sure someone gets service. So, you know, you're giving people your credit card numbers, your phone number, your date of birth, your social security card information. You're just setting yourself up for real problems.
I like your idea of a family password.
You know, we used to say that, but I thought, you know, that would really work.
Yeah, so everybody in the family knows that you say fish or, you know, whatever, right? I don't know why that came to my mind.
Right. What's the secret password?
What's the secret password? Okay, so is there a resource of any kind, Nancy, that is kind of like a go-to to see what the latest scams are?
That is a very good question. Actually, the Federal Trade Commission, which is ftc.gov, they list all of these.
Okay.
So if you want to keep up to date on those, then that's the place to do it. And as a matter of fact, that's what I do. So I want people to know when these things are coming up. I get these text messages too, multiple times a day. I get the phone calls, the emails. So I know that folks out there are really struggling with this.
The dots might not be able to connect here, but I know you do a lot with estate planning.
Yeah.
So we can't make the scammers go away, and no matter how hard you try, any of us could accidentally fall victim. So is part of your work to try to protect people's assets as much as possible so that it's kind of, you can't break in?
Right, I regard it the same way. You know, we're protecting your future, we're protecting what you have. I don't want you to become a victim. So, you know, it's so hard to prosecute these people or even find them. The best thing we can do is cut them off at the pass.
Right.
And just make sure that we know better. We know better.
I told you, I think I've told the story before, so forgive, but when the thing was going out a few years ago, 2 or 3 maybe, that the AI was going to be able to grab your voice and that they could take your phone call, grab your voice, and then use it for ill gain. My mom heard about that as she called my brothers and me one by one, and she said, hey, just don't think I'm sick or anything, but I'm going to answer the phone differently for a few days. And sure enough, for about 2 weeks, if we called, our mom would answer, She was trying really hard.
It's
She's
creative.
never had, yeah, it
So-
was creative.
Well, you don't want to say yes. You don't want to say hello. I
Right.
mean,
Okay, let's talk about that
yeah.
one. If somebody calls you and you get a call that's just a random number and they say, "Hi, is this Julie Edwards?"
Yes.
I don't want to say yes.
No.
But what I should say is, who's
Who's
calling?
calling?
Okay.
Who's calling?
Okay. Did they, on that Federal Trade Commission website, ftc.gov, did they also list some things to be aware of, like
Oh, yeah.
tips?
Yeah, it's really comprehensive. It's surprising that you wouldn't think the FTC would be where you'd find those things.
Right.
But there are really great resources there. And of course, you know, I'm watching those. So if they want to stick to watching Boomer Time,
Right.
I always bring them up. So,
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So Nancy does this podcast pretty much every week, right?
every week.
A different podcast. So the scams that we're talking about this morning were a topic. Last go around, this week you're focusing on mothers.
Mothers, yeah. You know, being a caregiver of a mother, or mothers out there that are, you know, really trying to maintain the relationship with their kids
Right.
in the end years.
So I saw something the other day that made me feel old, and it was one of those Facebook things that said something like, someone told me to go back 30 years, think back 30 years, and I went to 1970 when in fact it was, you know, many, many years ago. So I know we talk about the elderly today, but really if you're in your 50s, come to you, right? Planning is key.
Absolutely. You need something in place because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And once you have something established, then we work together and, you know, as you change, the plan can change.
Right. Okay. I'm glad to know about the ftc.gov. That
Thank
might be
you.
some weekend reading for me and for you as well. And also, if you want to get in touch with Nancy, she does it all, from estate planning to wills to being your friend to making you feel better. It's nancycogar.com. 596-7220 is her phone number. And catch the podcast Boomer Time with Nancy Cogar.